All right. Who attended the keynote session here? Sorry, I'm not going to sing for you guys, all right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across and just talk about 10 challenges digital marketers face. Around my work with many different companies over the years, and I've worked with some large brands in the past, startups. I'm a startup guy, so I kind of felt very claustrophobic working in enterprises. But I work with them, I consult with them. And while during my work, I thought that there are some set of challenges that haven't changed. I've been in the industry since 2001, and what I see is the challenges have stayed the same. So I worked at large companies, as you can tell, small startups. I started my own online ad tech digital marketing training company, and currently I run Digital Sparx Marketing, which we are a services company. What I have seen is, doesn't matter if you're a small business, you're a large company, or you're a mid-sized company, the one thing that changes is the scale. If you're small, you're going to do the same thing, but if you're large, what you're going to do is you're going to have lot of higher campaigns and bigger numbers, but rest stays the same. Little bit about me that you can go back and then read all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take you through the most 10 challenging questions that people ask. This is a great time because you guys have just started this conference, so what we will see is you will look to find answers as you go through this conference. So these challenges, I hope some of you might resonate with them. But the number one challenge that I've seen time and again leaders ask me is, we have so many different platforms, right? So how can you bring all your campaigns and have a holistic view of all the data or all the campaigns on one dashboard? And the truth is that we live in a very omni-channel world. So back then, when I used to work for Sears, and we had a problem. That problem is solved now because they're not around anymore. But the problem was, how do you bring in offline and online together with all the different channels and all the different things that you are doing? And as marketers, what we do essentially is we drown in those Excel sheets, right? And what we do know as right now, as marketers, you should invest in an automation platform, if nothing else. Ends up happening that you can bring about 80% of your campaign data on your automation platform, which then becomes a nucleus of all your marketing activities. So this is one of the ways you can bring in your content, you can bring in your paid search data, and your landing pages, your account-based marketing, and so on and so forth. The second challenge that I see a lot, and then you guys would have to might find that too, is how do you build the right digital team structure? So the classic way that we have seen is there are 4 digital marketing team models. So when you're starting with your digital marketing, and I've worked both in-house and as an agency now, but the first thing that people ask is, should we hire or should we outsource? And if you look across the board, there are 4 common team models. And number one is you let the agency do everything for you. The second one is a hybrid model where you have few people in your company, and then you're working with an outside resource on it. And then finally, which I built, was a center of excellence model at Discover, where we brought in all the search, both paid, organic, and built a center of excellence. And what you see is, depending on your organization structure, so if you're a flat structure, you have a decentralized business unit, whatever the case may be, it's very critical that you set up your right team structure. Because if your organization is set up in a flat mode, and then you are trying to hire somebody in-house or build an in-house digital team, it's not going to work. And if you fight that battle, you're not going to win. So before you start your digital marketing journey, it's very critical that you build the right team and with the right structure. This is a little grid chart where you can look at team structure to team grid. But this is a very common question I get asked by CMOs all the time. How do we build it? Should we bring everything in-house? Some companies are doing a great job. Like, for example, I believe Liberty Mutual is doing a great job. They have built an agency within the company. Now, not everyone can do that, and not everyone should do that. Because even if you build an in-house team, there's chances you do need outside team or outside resource and outside help. This is a big one. How many of you create content day in, day out? So many, right? We live in a world where we are creating a lot more content and everybody wants to create content. But content, as we know now, is not more is good, but less is good. So what you have to do is you have to create content which is targeted at your marketing persona. So, a classic in a B2B structure, what we do see is there are three levels or three stakeholders who are part of the decision-making process. Those are your influencers. That means people who are specialists, who are managers. Then the other stage is what you see folks who are at an approval level, which are director, VP level, and then the final decision maker. Now, the challenge or the issue that I see every day and I hear every day and I help people every day is create less content, but create targeted content. So in a simple Excel sheet, just nail down what is the type of content you want to produce, who's the target area, who's the persona you're targeting. That way, you're not going crazy on creating 4 or 6 pieces of content each week, but you're creating very targeted content. So we use Marketo. We are the agency, vendor approved, whatever it's called. But so what we do on Marketo is we actually create 3 different streams of content. So of course, we nurture the leads for our clients, for ourselves, and we create the streams into researcher, approver, decision maker, and then we take the content and we create or we send the content which is targeted at them. This way what you're doing is you're creating less content and you get higher results, higher open rate, higher engagement, and at the end of the day, higher deals. All right. Challenge number 4. This, I still get it in 2019. I remember back in the day, which is 2001, when I started with SEO, there was no resource. I think SES was just starting out. And, those days was classic trial and error. We used to optimize a page, and back then the alt tags, the meta tags were huge. So people used to fill in all the 50 keywords in those meta titles. How many of you remember those days? Anyone? Many of us, yeah. Even you, sir? All right, you look great. Sorry. Yeah, so SEO, even right now, I get that question. And that is, are we doing it right? And, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? And SEO is a classic case of that. I think nothing has changed in terms of the foundation. Of course, the variable changes, and Google has to do that. But, the 4 main elements of SEO, which is you have the on-page optimization, your technical SEO, your links, and your engagement ratio. Those are still the building blocks. And as marketers, what we need to do is just focus on those 4 building blocks and just optimize it. So if you really break it down, it's your on-page, your link building. Engagement is huge. Videos are great. Whatever you can do to make people stay on your website, because that's how it increases the stickiness. And of course, the technical side of it, and not just redirects, but the speed and all of those kind of things. One of the things that I always recommend people is SEO is something which is very basic, very rudimentary, but where you fail is you have to do it over and over again. And that's when people fail. So they might do it for some time, but then most of the times I've seen, at least in large enterprises, that SEO is brought in too late in the game. So one of the ways never to miss it is you insert SEO as part of your process. Now, you can go as high as a creative stage where you are just developing an idea or developing a creative brief or anything. Make sure you are actually inserting SEO at each stage of the way. The red markers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the places where SEO should be part of the process. So if you do this, I haven't seen any company missing SEO after this. Again, SEO is doing the basics over and over again. By the way, the format of this session is such that you won't be able to get questions, and I love answering questions from people, so I've created a little app. It's called bob.cnf.io. Just upload, ask a question, and after the conference, I will answer your question. So yeah, don't be shy, ask me questions. I love helping people. I ran a training company for 8 years, so it's all about education right here. Challenge number 5. how do you create a blended acquisition strategy? So one of the things we do is when you're just starting out with your marketing, we all go out and we spend money, right? Because it's so easy in a way to spend money to buy traffic, to buy leads, whatever that case may be. But the real marketing comes in when you're not spending money and you are actually building an organic traffic stream through your digital marketing. And what we have seen is this is the Shangri-La of marketers, right? Where this is the kind of acquisition strategy where we want, like we have leads or deals coming in, and what we need to do is we need to use each one of these tactics. But the reality is this. What I see is about 60% of marketing budget or acquisition comes from paid marketing, and about 30% is direct, people going directly to your site, and about 15, 20%, 30% is organic. Even in organic, a lot of our people we work with, they do not segment it out between branded and non-branded organic traffic. So basically what they're doing is they're spending so much money on paid marketing, but even on the paid side of things, they're not really optimizing it. And one of the classic things we try to do is we try to manage campaigns on a margin. So if you're a B2C company, you know if you're selling a product for $100 and your cost of goods is about $50, you're going to make $50, right? But if you're selling 10 different products, your margin on each of those products are very different. And we have seen time and again that what people end up doing is they use one margin ROI across all campaigns without differentiating between products. And that is the wrong way to run your paid campaigns. And what we do see at the end of the day is they have keywords which are in the red. So you might be generating acquisition or new leads or new sales through your paid marketing, but the issue becomes is you are spending money on keywords where you're actually bleeding red. So I put this thing together. I've been working with what is called your paid and organic integration. So as marketers, if something you can do is basically bring those two things together. And when you do a keyword level acquisition strategy on how much you're making on each keyword or each acquisition new customer you're acquiring, you will see that some keywords actually that you think you are making money is you're not. You're losing money on every keyword or every new customer that you are acquiring. So I have an Excel sheet. Email me after this conference and I'll be happy to send it your way. But yeah, you need to have a blended CPA. All right. Now, this is interesting because this is everyone's buzzword. And the buzzword is, how do we create a superior customer experience? Now, customer experience means different things to so many people, right? I sit in meetings every day where people are like, you need to have a great customer experience. So what does it actually mean? And when you look at it in a classic triangle, Venn diagram, what you see is you have the UI, UX part of it, where user experience is very critical, how you go through it. Your customer journey is another important element. Personalization and, of course, the messaging that goes across the board. Now, when you look at UI and UX, I don't know how many marketers test out their own form. So for example, if you go to any website and you see that, you go to the home page or whatever that page is, you sign up for a free resource, and then how is that flow going in? What are they getting post they sign up for anything? That's called experience at a very basic level. One of my friends, Dan Genghis, he's a big experience proponent. So he was telling me the story on a podcast we recorded a couple of weeks back. So he was at this hotel. He was at a conference. And then I think in the middle of the night, around 3, whatever, he stepped out because he wanted to go to the restroom. And suddenly, as soon as he got out of his bed, he saw that there's a whole lighting on the floor that went up, and suddenly he panicked, like, what happened? But actually it was light to guide him to the bathroom, and that is known as experience, right? So someone actually in the experience team at that hotel went and slept on the bed and saw how that experience works through, and that is known as how you go about going after your customer journey. Now, whatever your customer journey is, what I suggest for you guys to be successful is to map out the whole stream, right from A to Z, and how that process is. Can you do it, and ask your friend, your family, your significant other, and how they feel about it. And that is the best way to test something out. And that's one. And again, challenge number 8 is how can we create less content? Nobody asked me this question. What people ask me is how can we create more content? And again, as I was mentioning earlier, and you're gonna hear a lot during this conference is it's gonna be a lot around repurposing. The whole game of content, as we call it now, is about repurposing content. It's not about creating new content. It's about repurposing your existing content. And, the answer is simple. So, for example, what we did for one of our clients is we created a webinar, and out of that webinar, we ended up creating 9 different types of content. And out of those 9 different types of content, we repeated the same thing over and again for about 6 months. So at the end of 6 months, we ended up with 54 different types of content or different content types. So what I'm trying to suggest here is don't go out and create new content every time, because that's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and you don't even know what's the ROI of that, right, in many cases. So the answer is repurposing. So the way we did it is we created one webinar, we created a few blog posts out of it, we created a webinar video after that. We created an ebook out of that webinar. Of course, the written word and the spoken word is so different, so you have to carefully change that, and then some social posts and things like that. All right, this is challenge number 9. This is a classic. As long as I've been in this industry, and I think most of you too, one of the pains that I feel every time is how can we break down the barriers with IT? How many people have this issue on working with IT? Yeah, everyone, right? They just don't move fast enough. And the issue with that is not because they don't want to do it. I've worked in companies where you have this huge IT team, and just to get a search box, it takes you a year on the website, and I'm not kidding, I'm real. But the fact is, we both operate, marketers and IT, like we live on a different continent. Sometimes it's true. But what we have seen is our worlds are different. The way we look at things is very different than how IT looks at things. And one of the easiest things that I've found that people should do is to create some kind of a marketing and IT cadence where, our focus in marketing is all about customer experience, is all about acquisition. How can we acquire new customers? It's very revenue driven. And what we believe in marketing is how can we go to market faster. We test out those things, and then if it's working, we do more of it. If it's not, we move on to the next one. Now on the IT side, they live in a whole different world, because their world is all about infrastructure. They are very risk averse, and because they're risk averse, they take a very cautious approach. And they are very cost focused actually. And because our worlds are different, what we are not doing is we are not bringing these two teams together. And one of the great examples that I found 12 years back is this paper written by Forrester, where they actually broke down into a team approach. And if you apply this team approach, and this can go not just to IT, but even on the sales side of things, where you're breaking down the barriers by having a transparency into how things work. Very few marketers actually share their monthly, their quarterly, their yearly forecasts and revenue targets. And because IT doesn't know those targets, what they do is they don't know the seriousness or importance of things. So the transparency is very critical. Your acquisition numbers, how much you're trying to target and how much you're looking to acquire. Embedded groups is critical. So from marketing team, one of you should be as part of the IT team or embedding and working closely with them, right? So we have the product managers and BAs and so on and so forth. Alignment is very critical, and it's not just taking them out for beers or bringing them donuts, which are a great thing, but also alignment on a weekly cadence on how you guys are working together and what are the issues and things like that. And then, of course, you need the management buy-in. So your CMO and their CIO should align on so many things. And actually, I see the same thing in sales. I'm doing a session tomorrow at 4:30 on B2B ABM, and I talk a similar thing on the sales and marketing alignment. Sales and marketing alignment is so similar to what's going on with the whole IT and marketing alignment. Now, if you look at a sales team, it's a similar issue, right? Where the sales team is not aligned with the marketing team. And part of the time is the sales guys are going to say the marketing is not giving us great leads. And marketers are going to say that the sales team is not closing on the leads we provide. And again, the same thing is how can you define the sales and marketing role? And something similar is what we see in the IT and marketing part of it. And that's my next challenge, is how to efficiently align your sales and marketing teams. Now, what we see here with sales and marketing, this is if there's anything you want to take away from this conference, is how do you align your sales and marketing team? For marketers, the biggest challenge is aligning these two groups together. They look at things very differently. Sales are very numbers driven. It's black and white. There is no gray area. Either you close a deal or you don't close a deal. And especially with so many of you working on your B2B and your account-based marketing campaigns, it is marketing's role to help the sales achieve their goals, right? And as marketers, what we should do is we should treat our sales team as our client. If we treat the sales team as our client, then chances are we're going to do a lot more for them. So one of the first things I do when bringing these two teams together is I actually create a set of roles. What is marketing's role and what is sales role? And marketing's role, of course, is to create beautiful targeted content, especially when it comes to the whole ABM campaigns, campaign nurturing. How many of marketers actually out there help and work with the sales team to create nurture emails for the sales guys, right? Same with leads. That's our job in marketing. Now, and lead scoring and lead assignment and things like that. Now, on the sales side, their job, of course, is to create face-to-face sales meeting, create more opportunities, create relationships, and, of course, closing and winning new deals. As a starting point, what I suggest is create a process. When you start with your digital marketing, the first thing, of course, is to create a digital infrastructure. Now, part of the digital infrastructure is not just the technologies, the platforms, and the leads and the contact data, but also to create some kind of a sales process and marketing to sales process. That means how the lead gets in your database. After that, what happens? What kind of tactics are you going to employ to basically nurture those leads? And post that, how are you going to go to the next stage, which is the meetings, which is face-to-face? Now, if that doesn't pan out, how can the sales team send the leads back to marketing? And one of the biggest things I've found, or the biggest complaint I've seen from the sales team towards marketing is not giving us high quality leads. And what I mean by that is, as marketers, our job is to score those leads. And only the best leads, the hot leads, or the warm leads, should go to the sales team. And you can create different ways to create a lead scoring mechanism and working with sales and marketing team. All right, so last one is how are we tracking the right metrics? Now, this is a huge thing that I see across the board, right? Where we get confused between what is metrics, what we see on our analytics platform, and what are our KPIs. Now, for starting, web metrics are very different. They are just numerical data points. So sometimes as analysts, when we look at reports, the art is not in taking the data and just throwing it out. The art is to making data inferences. And that's what marketers should be doing, is making those data inferences. And then creating ratios based of numbers, which essentially ends up happening is those are your actions. Now, KPIs are those 5 KPIs or 3 KPIs that every business should be measuring. And that's what KPI is. Business goals, So for example, whatever your business goals are, whatever industry you're working with, whether you are in retail. So in retail is again, it's black and white. Did they buy it or they did not? Simple. If you are in service industry, SaaS world, demand B2B world, what you're looking at is what is your lead acquisition. So those are your business goals. And then of course, if you're running a media website, you're looking at impressions and page views and things like that. Now, the metric to measure is your page views, your feedback from submission, checkout, page visits, things like that. But, this is a great piece here from Dilbert, obviously. But the number one complaint from employees is unclear objectives. So those are my top big 10 challenges. Again, ask me question if I missed out on anything, and I'll be happy to answer. And I have written, or co-authored rather, I should say, a book on content marketing. So it's free for download. And it's a bit.ly /Bob ebook. So I see that we have few minutes left. Is anyone brave enough to ask questions? I'll be happy to answer since I'm here for a few minutes. Isn't this the home of the Braves? Go ahead, sir. Yeah, so I think, what are you trying to do with that? So you want to have more share of wallet, right? Yeah, so yeah, that is super important because you have a customer, you acquired them, they're spending money with you, but your goal as marketers is how can you increase the share of wallet, right? How can you make them spend more over a period of time? How can you retain them? How can you engage them? So yes, testing does make sense sometimes because too many engagement methods to your current customer can drive them off too. So yes, I think that is one way to go about it. And sometimes you have these customer personas, right? That the people you are already acquired, but they may not be the right people that you want to acquire. So your current persona versus your ideal persona. So that is always a big strategy. But yeah, if you have good customer base, then you should always be testing, right? Always be testing. Any other question? Yeah, so the question was, great question. The question was, how can you create customized target content through 3 different personas? Because then it's going to end up as we're going to create more content and not less content. So the trick is targeted content, right? So if you create one set of content for everyone, you're going to have 6 pieces, 8 pieces of content, right? Now, what's going to happen is that content is not going to be evergreen. But if you create targeted content, obviously you're going to create less over a period of time, not in a month or 2 months, but then you have those content assets that you can reuse for that personas over a period of time. And then you can also use the same one to different accounts or different companies. So that is the trick in creating less. Any other question? I think maybe one last question. Targeting personas, you mean? Yeah, so the question is, how do you evolve creating one set of content to the next set of content, right? How do you evolve? And again, the classic is, uh, uh, you know, um, you want to warm them up over time, right? So what we have seen is when you create content for C-level executives, you don't want to throw them a webinar invite because they're not going to sit through your webinar. That kind of content piece is great for your managerial director level folks. So different content means for different people. So you want to warm them up over a period of time without you go out and ask them for a date, which is a meeting, right? So you got to warm them up over a period of time, give some value. For example, at a approval level and a C level, what we have seen is quick ROI charts, 5 ways to do this, 7 ways to do this. Those kind of content work really well. Whereas, so if you really have to think about it, is think about it short form content, long form. Sometimes folks at the analyst level, approver, influence level, you can make them captive. So create a long form content for them because they are like a sponge. They're going to absorb a lot of your content because they are in the learning mode and they want to go up there, which is the C level, right? So that's how you basically drive up your things. But thank you so much. Ask me any questions and yeah, happy to chat more. Thank you.